become clearer today. Up to £1 billion of money invested by local councils, the police and public transport authorities are effectively locked in. It's triggered a diplomatic row between Britain and Iceland. And charities who are also invested may lose their money, and some companies are affected, as the Prime Minister discovered today when he met business leaders in Birmingham. Nick Robinson was with him. Nick.
It is a long, long way from Reykjavik to here in Birmingham, but the crisis that has crippled banks in Iceland is being felt here and throughout the country. It really is a small world. Banks crash on a small island over 1,000 miles away, and the result is that British councils, police authorities and charities fear losing £1 billion, which tonight lies frozen in Icelandic bank accounts.
Resilient even through difficult times such as...
It is a problem that followed Gordon Brown to Birmingham. He'd come here to sell his radical bank rescue package to business leaders, but they had more immediate concerns.
There's a guy told me yesterday £11.5 million of business money on deposit that he's worried is now gone.
The Prime Minister has promised to refund private savers in Icelandic banks, but not businesses or councils.
This is a problem that is being caused by the Icelandic government. I've talked to the Prime Minister of Iceland about it. It is totally unacceptable behaviour. We are taking legal action against money that has been moved out of Britain into Iceland.
In Birmingham and other major cities, anonymous-looking office blocks house Icelandic banks. Business leaders here want the same guarantees as personal savers.
We didn't get a straight answer on that. He wouldn't commit, but he will, the point's been made, and we do need to know where we stand.
And so too do more than 100 councils throughout Britain. Amongst those worst affected are Kent, Nottingham, Norfolk and Dorset. And other public bodies are affected too, including Transport for London. Derwentsside Council has £7 million at risk. They insist they weren't being reckless and they want their money back.
The Local Government Association are petitioning central government to be sure that no authority loses money, and I'm confident that they'll be successful given that the central government have bailed out something like £500 billion for the private sector. I'm sure they'll look after the public sector as well.
The question of who should foot the bill is the subject of a ferocious diplomatic row. Iceland's Prime Minister didn't take kindly to his country's assets in the UK being seized using anti-terror laws.
When I realised that we are being that a terrorist law was being applied against us, that was not very pleasant. I'm afraid that not many governments have had taken that very kindly.
Icelandic taxpayers may also not take kindly to paying compensation in Britain, but someone somewhere may have to. Tonight, Downing Street insisted that the negotiations with Iceland are going rather better than that fierce rhetoric may have suggested. Now that, of course, is just one part of this global banking crisis, a crisis that Gordon Brown tried to deal with his massive rescue plan yesterday. Today, on his way up to Birmingham, he spoke to me about his plans, and I pressed him on whether he was being fully frank with the public on what his plan would cost us all.
My interest throughout is what we need to do to help the flow of funds to small businesses, to help people start getting mortgages again, to give pensioners who've got savings the security that they need.
But so people understand you at home, are you saying there may not be a consequence, that it may be possible to do this rescue plan without that producing spending cuts and tax rises and so on that people fear?
You cannot have security for pensioners' savings. You cannot have the housing market working well unless you have a good banking system. So a sound banking system is at the essence of everything that we do in our economy. And everybody knows if you don't trust the banks, you can't actually do very much. So I've got to rebuild trust in the banking system. Yes, there are consequences. We're adding to our debt to do it, but it's the right thing to do given that we have low debt in this country. And yes, we'll have to look at all decisions in future, but this is not the right time to say that health service or education spending or pension spending should be cut. That would be the wrong thing, and we are not doing this at the expense of the health service or the expense of education. We're doing it because it's the right thing to do to get the economy moving, and we're leading the world in the action that we took yesterday, as everybody internationally now recognises.
A man stopped me on the street today and said, well, what shall I do with my savings? What shall I do? Now, I'm not qualified, but they may look to you. Are you saying to them, as much as you can, your savings are safe?
Every action that we are taking, whether it's buying shares in banks themselves to make them fully capitalised, or whether it's the depositor protection scheme, or whether it's the international action we're taking, it's all designed for one thing, to bring stability and security to the hard-working families and small businesses of Britain.
You've always been reluctant to use the R word, recession. Is it because you don't want to talk people into a gloom? Is it that you don't know quite what the future will hold, because none of us can? Because people are hearing and reading this and they want to know your assessment.
I can't predict what's going to happen, because there are so many international factors involved. You had an oil price a few days ago over $100 and it's now falling again. So you've got all these uncertainties, political instability, food prices have gone up. I hope they'll come down. But what I can say is that the action that we are taking is designed not only to strengthen the banking system, but to get the economy moving again.
The Prime Minister believes that yesterday took a vital first step in solving the banking crisis. What he knows, and his audience of businessmen here in Birmingham know, is that the impact of that crisis and the forthcoming recession is only just being felt in the real world. Gordon Brown says that it will be a long haul. You can say that again.
Nick Robinson, thanks very much. In the last hour in New York, the Dow Jones has closed at its lowest level for more than 5 years.